It came about because Homeland was filming their fifth season in Berlin, and I was living in Berlin at the time. And they contacted a friend of mine, Stone, who is a graffiti publisher. And he was contacted as a sort of consultant to find two people to work on the set who can write in Arabic and who are from the Arabic-speaking world. And he has done research in the Middle East for many years, and so this is why he was contacted. It turns out that he contacted many people before me, and many people declined because their politics were not in sync with the show. And my initial reaction was also to decline. I had boycotted the show up until that point, until I considered what is the possibility of potentially incorporating subversive graffiti.
Yeah, so you were supposed to be putting pro-Assad graffiti on the walls, is that right? And you actually decided to put these messages.
No, we had met with the set designers who had brought references with them, and they were photographs of Arabic graffiti that just happened to be pro-Assad graffiti. Right. They were not aware of the content of the sources. So these were the references that they gave us. But in fact, we were instructed to not use those references because they were afraid of copyright, but also that they didn't want the graffiti to be political. But they did tell us that writing "Muhammad is the greatest" is okay. So this is something that we kind of played with because it's quite absurd.
Did you think you were going to get away with it? Did you expect them not to check it?
I mean, we were surprised, of course, and not surprised at the same time. I mean, we were kind of functioning under the precedents that Homeland has made many faux pas in many episodes before. So it was clear that they weren't focusing their attention on the research and the accuracy of depicting the region. This was very clear to us, which is why we had the idea to begin with. But of course, we didn't imagine that we'd be able to kind of slip through so easily.
Yeah, I'm just going to have a look at a few more of yours. There's some quite tongue-in-cheek pieces you did as well, weren't there? This one says, "Freedom now in HD." Another one reading in the bottom left of the picture, "This show does not represent the views of the artist," which is very clear from what you've been saying. We also had a statement, didn't we, from the executive producer of Homeland, Alex Ganser, who said Homeland always strives to be subversive in its own right and a stimulus for conversation. "We can't help but admire this act of artistic sabotage." What do you make of that, Heba?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways I'm pleasantly surprised by the reaction. I mean, I do have a bit of qualms about his idea of Homeland being subversive, but I'm very happy that he's willing to have that dialogue. And in fact, that was the purpose of our act to begin with, was to raise attention to this very problematic issue that spans across a lot of media and a lot of TV shows, not just Homeland. But that Homeland kind of presented itself as this opportunity. So I'm quite happy to hear his response and to hear that he's willing to have that dialogue, and we're ready to have that dialogue as well.
What do you want Homeland to learn from this then, Heba?
I'm sorry?
What would you like the producers of Homeland to learn from this?
I mean, it's not necessarily that we're out to teach them a lesson, but we're trying to raise awareness to the issue that even if the narrative is a fictional one, they're functioning within a very kind of realistic context in which Middle Easterners and Arabs have for quite some time, and especially after 9/11, been depicted in this very shallow one-dimensional view, one-dimensional representation. And this in fact has a very real implication on real people. And so it's about time that we take ownership of our image again and start to have this conversation.